In this episode of ADHd20, which is a podcast that finds the intersection between ADHD and
TTRPGs,
we talk about sleep.
Are we going to fix the mechanics for long rest and short rest in D&D and IRL? Who knows? You'll just have to watch and find out.
Watch and find out. Oh.
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Allison.
Ooh, I beat you to the punch.
You beat me. I love that. New intro, who dis? So we actually did prepare for today's podcast, right? Like both research-wise and physically.
Physically, we prepared.
I know I did.
Today we're talking about sleep, or in D&D terms, a long rest and a short rest,
yes,
plus ADHD. And Matt and I decided to celebrate by not getting enough sleep these past lifetimes, but especially few weeks, several days. I slept like garbage last night. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Sleep is not usually something that eludes me, but I go in and out of like sleep cycles and phases. And last night, So, and I actually had that thought somewhere around 2:30. I was like, this is just my body preparing for the ADHd20 episode that we're going to record tomorrow.
It's true.
I am nothing if not method, baby.
You are method, baby. It's true both that you've said before that you don't have problems with sleep, which I've been so incredibly envious of you about. But now you're saying it. So you did prepare. Good. I appreciate your methods.
Yep. And how about you?
I slept poorly for the last couple of nights because I'm preparing for a trip. Now, the irony, of course, is I sleep poorly before any trip. I have a really tough time sleeping and preparing, just kind of thinking about all the things that I have to do before I leave.
Maybe my poor sleep this week is just like sympathy pains for you. I knew with your upcoming travel that you wouldn't be getting much sleep, and I was like, you know what? I'm in it to win it with Matt.
Yes.
Let me up my sleep schedule too.
I love it.
Well, before we get too far into, obviously we have a lot to say.
We do. We have a lot to say. Yes. So let's start from the very beginning, which is called Math Rocks.
Well, so here's the thing. We got a suggestion that maybe we do a single question that we both answer. So would you like to do the honors of rolling, or would you like for me to do the honors of rolling?
I know that you love rolling, but I think I feel today that
I feel good about your decision.
39.
Let's see what we have here today. What aspect of D&D did you hyper focus on when you were first learning? Or if not first, what was your most recent D&D rabbit hole?
Ooh, that's good. That's really good. A D&D rabbit hole. I'm going to, of course, go with the most recent one because there is always a most recent one. I would say usually, I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, it has something to do with the VTT, an upgrade to it, a way to make it easier for players and myself. It's always so joyful to me. There's never any anger or frustration that I would normally experience when I'm working with a new something.
Thank God for that.
It is for sure VTT related. Just back to what is the best tool for the job, right? That's my hyper focus.
Always. I remember my first hyper focus very, very well, and that was spell selection. I spent hours consuming every article and video. My first, as we've talked about before, my first character was a sorcerer, and I wanted to build the best dang sorcerer. And then I wanted her spells to all make sense. I didn't want to be random about it. And I wanted the spells themselves to tell this kind of story. I wanted to make sure that I had the right amount of like attack spells, but then some spells that could do some cool shit. At all points in between. So it was spell. And I still do. I live in that spells tab of my player sheet. D&D Beyond.
That's because it's so much fun.
It is so fun.
Great question. Great ADHD 100 question.
Good ADHD 100ing, Matt.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can tee up our topic. This was your idea. This was your brainchild. And so I'm interested in hearing from you what caused that sizzle in your brain to go, I know what we should talk about on the next episode.
Yeah. Well, I've always struggled with sleeping. And you could say, well, Matt, you take medicine, you take stimulants, and of course that has affected my sleep in the past and probably still does. But it's kind of been a lifelong thing. So there is an element of ADHD itself that also tends to affect sleep. I'm not entirely sure whether they know a lot about it, like the actual. I don't know whether they know anything about sleep. Period. Right.
Period. Everybody's making everything up. Come on,
everybody's
man.
making everything up. There's so many things that they don't know, or they have known, and we're gonna laugh and laugh and laugh someday.
Well, and so all of this topic started because last week, and it's funny that you're wearing the shirt that you're wearing right now.
Yes.
Last week, our darling little Matt and Lindsay acted like whimsical beings of their 20-somethings and went to a concert on a school night. And you were a little wrecked the next day.
I was a little wrecked the next day. And okay, so first off, let me say that, a lot of people are like, well, I'm older and therefore I can't. Yes, sure. Your body doesn't recover as fast. It doesn't heal as fast. All of that is very true. But the thing that I always want to stick up for, how age doesn't have to have anything to do with this, is that in my 20s, where the decade where I'm supposed to be able to just heal, and I was on the road all the time, and therefore my sleep was constantly piss poor.
Yeah.
It affected me this same way.
Okay.
I was just not as smart about it, right? I was ornery and crabby and jacked up and all of those things. Going to Ghost the other night was such a deviation from my current schedule, which, as I mentioned, is, partly because I now adhere to a 9-to-5 world rather than a 5 to 2 in the morning, work schedule. So, yes, we woke up and we felt like we had been punched in the face. However, we also went to Taco Bell. Right? Oh, we didn't drink, but we went to Taco Bell, and so
Who are you?
I know. Well, that's Lindsay's favorite late night.
Wow, I learned
meal.
So much from this podcast. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's her favorite late night, and we didn't have one drink, but we woke up the next day and we simply didn't get enough sleep, so we felt like we were punched in the face. So it is a constant struggle for me long before I was on medicine, and I just thought, oh, wait a minute. D&D has this mechanic which has been changed through the years and could change again, but the basic concept is there are two types of rest. There's what they call a short rest, and there's long rest. So since you've done the research, would you like to speak to what short rests and long rests are in the game? And then I thought it would be fun to then apply that to, first off, what we think about the mechanic generally, and then how it applies to real life. It does it.
Yeah.
Spoiler, it doesn't.
But how we wish.
Oh, how we wish.
Well, I will say before I even read this, on the topic of medication, I spent 9 months, a year or more ago, trying 3 different medications for my ADHD. 3-month sprint on all of them. And all of them wrecked my sleep.
Sure.
So, that is not conclusive evidence by any means. But I remember with each of them this feeling of like, what is happening? Oh, wait, I know what's happening to me on my medication.
Yeah, it is. It is something that you can get used to. It's something that your body can get used to, just like with any medicine. I'm not a doctor. don't listen
You're
to what
not
I'm saying.
dispensing medical advice on this podcast.
I'm not giving you anything. I'm not giving you anything. But all of those medicines, antidepressants, stimulants, they start out making you feel horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, in my experience, the reason that a lot of people don't stick with them is because they absolutely make you feel like shit.
Yeah, physically.
Absolutely.
I had heartburn, I had headaches, I wasn't sleeping. And then I wondered, because like, was the not sleeping then feeding the headaches and the grumpiness and the general malaise?
Captain Nightmare.
So let's talk about D&D mechanics.
Yeah.
So a short rest is a period of downtime, at least 1 hour long, during which a character does nothing more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, and tending to wounds. So short rest is always interesting in gameplay because a lot of times it's like players have come through a battle, they're down a lot of hit points, and that's the main reason that you would want to take a short rest in D&D, right? You roll something called hit dice so you can regain some of your hit points and then be ready to fight again, be ready to take more hits. And then there are certain abilities that come back with a short rest. And as you level up, you get those abilities back faster. So for instance, I am a level 11 bard in our Barovia game. And now that I am at that level as a bard, I can get my uses of something called bardic inspiration back on a short rest, whereas at lower levels, I had to wait until a long rest, which is interesting because it's like, why would I suddenly get back a capability after an hour versus a full rest? So I kind of am with you there on the like eye roll hand wave of like, this isn't real. This doesn't make sense.
I do have to say, I know what they're referring to when it says nothing more strenuous than eating, drinking, reading, and tending to wounds. But the reading thing is so cute. I know that they're saying for wizards or something. That you're perusing books, but reading is just like pulling out Stephen King or pulling out the hammock and resting.
Well, and it's so ridiculous too, because a lot of times, like you will short rest at a place that you absolutely would not be able, like we will be in the middle of a dungeon crawl, in the middle of a cave, and everybody's like, well, I'm down to 10 hit points, so let's just pop up a little tent and rest for an hour. Like you wouldn't do. Come on, man. Man. So that always makes me giggle.
I have ridden with 7 or 8 people in a Winnebago. And that was in 2018 or so. And I did not get short rest of any kind at any time. So I cannot, if we're talking about a fantasy, the idea is that you would be able to just get into a cart or carriage of a horse-drawn something and get any kind of rest. Hell no. That's not happening.
But I get mechanically why you would, in a fantasy game. And that's something I feel like we are constantly flirting with is this. It's fantasy. It's all made up anyways. You and Evan and Fitz and I have talked at length about like y'all's feelings on long rests or death or spells. And I'm like, but in what world is a fighter walking up and, doing the thing that a fantasy fighter, monk, paladin, like it's all made up. Like none of it's just because like we have a better understanding of what it is to walk up and punch somebody versus like walk up and cast a spell on somebody. It's all made up.
I know, but and you also know that we're simply speaking as older players, that the game was not as video game-y.
Yeah.
In my day. D&D. It is true. And we do knock 5e sometimes, but I have said many times as well, I love that it is a better storytelling vehicle than Days of Old.
You love how wound up in our characters we get. Don't front.
I do.
So that's
a short rest.
That's the completely unrealistic short rest in which you're going to get any kind of boons, hit points, capabilities, abilities back. And then there's the long rest, which I feel like is more
Even
of the
more.
same times 8. So that one, rules as written, a long rest is a period of extended downtime, at least 8 hours long, during which a character sleeps or performs light activity. Again, reading, talking, eating, or standing watch for no more than 2 hours. If the rest is interrupted by periods of strenuous activity, at least 1 hour of walking, fighting, casting spells, or similar adventuring activity, I love that, the characters must begin the rest again to gain any benefit from it. And then to the point that you've made many times in the past, it's like, you all take this long, and, some of us were on death's door. We're mortally wounded in battle. And then go to sleep for 8 hours and wake up and we have no more broken bones, no more open lacerations. I am with you on this one, Matt.
That just drives me nuts.
And I mean, I love as much as I hate, and we've seen this play out, so we've talked on this podcast about, my character Chimerical died, was brought back. And so she had, what was I, level 4 exhaustion? Which you can only clear exhaustion by long resting more. So the more levels you have, and so it's bitten me in the butt in battle. It halved my speed. I had disadvantage on ability checks and saving throws.
Yeah.
Thank God none of the wolves tried to bite me, because I would have werewolfed out in 2 campaigns of yours.
Yeah. Double lycanthropy, double the fun. It is. One of the rules I dislike the most in 5e, the concept of waking up after 8 hours and being completely healed. If there was even a way that you could explain it away, like in this world, if you can simply put your body into a period of stasis where you are actually getting rest, then it has every creature on this planet has the ability to fast, to knit broken bones and close wounds. I mean, you would have to do that because it's so silly.
I do feel like we do that a little bit. Yesterday we came to the end of our battle. We knew that we were going to be heading into at least some short rest and probably some long rest. Mm-hmm. But still, one of the first things that you do if you have spell slots left is you heal. You use magic to cure wounds, to take away effects, and so usually we don't go straight from battle and all being very depleted on hit points straight to bed, because there's always that what if. There's always that what if something wakes us in the night and we didn't complete a long rest, so we can't go into another encounter where each of us have 20 hit points or less.
Are you going somewhere with that? Because I suddenly had a beautiful idea. That I thought you were kind of touching on. What if you thought of a cure wounds spell, any kind of healing spell from a healer, a caster, as an immediate restoration of hit points, but then if you followed that up with a long rest, the magic would continue to slow act. And then you wake up. Now that I could get behind, right? But you could not go to bed without having some sort of cast
magic in your system.
Yes. So, yeah, that's fun.
I'm interested in that.
Yeah, that's pretty fun. At least. Well, so okay. That's both everything that I love about 5e and everything that's frustrating about 5e is that it is so set up for storytelling, but all you have to do is come up with the smallest kind of story to explain some of the mechanics that don't make any damn sense. So this is one of them. Just like, hey, even if it's just healing word, just basically an easy peasy, very maybe heals 4 or 5 hit points, but then you immediately go to bed. I like that.
Well, and so no, that was not the direction I was taking it. I love that direction, but where I was taking it is I think of something like a cure wounds. Yes, it's bringing hit points back when we need them, but think about the name of the spell, Cure Wounds. Like that is something that is going to mend my skin around where I was slashed. And maybe there needs to be a separation of like mend bones, you know, and like, and you have to have the right spells for the right things that you're doing. Just like you have a lesser or a greater restoration that can take away various levels of curses and things like that. That's where I was going with it, of like, how can we use the magic? Oh, you don't have mend bones, and you know, I got my, you know, tripped and fell and broke my, like, then there's going to be consequences for, I have to be in a fantasy boot for the next 6 weeks.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That is fantastic. Like if the cleric, let's just say cleric, who has the ability to cast Cure Wounds, could very specifically, or a potion or something, say, okay, I have diagnosed you. So you have to do a medicine check first as a diagnosis. I think it's my tenderloin, doc, or whatever.
My tenderloin? Gross. That went to a weird place, Matt.
I think it's my quad. I think it's my quad, coach. And he's like on the battlefield. But he's like, oh my gosh. And a medicine check says, it looks like this bone is broken. I can cast this spell, a variation on it. And let's say clerics have the ability, I'm going too far in this, I'm sorry. But if clerics have the ability to then like specify, but bards don't. Oh, man, I'm really into this. Bards can only cure wounds.
Yep.
One of them can only learn like cure exhaustion.
Yes.
Whatever you imagine. And then in combat, you could have so much fun by setting up some sort of macro and foundry or something, and you could like have it automatically roll a table as to where you were hit and how you were hit. Is this a cut? Is this something that would crack a bone? Oh, see, that's all I want.
I think we found your/our next hyperfixation. Congratulations.
Yes. Yes. I'm going to build a table after this. Yes. So those are the two mechanics. Most of the time, we just roll with it because we're playing with people and we are trying to tell a story. And is that too much crunch? And can we just please get to the next place? You have to weigh the pros and cons. I really, 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 really wish, however, that either a short or long rest would apply to real life.
Yes. Well, so let's talk about that. So, like, neither of us completed our long rest last night.
or the night before. No. Yes.
You know, and so would that make, like, are you currently at level 2 exhaustion and I'm only at level 1 exhaustion? I found something so as I was looking into like the correlation, because I've long known, although like I think that like sleep issues, probably a comorbidity with lots of things, like being a human, being alive, breathing,
yes. Stress, having your own business. Trying to do 5,000 things all at once. Yeah.
I know we've tried to corner the market on RSD, but I don't think that we can claim sleep problems all our own.
Damn it.
But I did find something very, very interesting. And again, because this makes sense between two people on a podcast, I am not diagnosing the world at large. Yeah. But I did find from sleepfoundation.org that there is a difference in these sleep problems that we encounter if we are impulsive versus inattentive.
Oh.
And you and I fit the bills for each of those, which I thought was really funny. So it says this, and I found this interesting. Individuals with predominantly inattentive symptoms are more likely to have a later bedtime. Hello, vampire. Wow.
I know. That's vampire.
Okay, so and this is where it gets interesting. Those with predominantly hyperactive impulsive symptoms are more likely to suffer from insomnia.
Wow. And is that true?
I have cycles. I go in and out of waves. I've pretty much always been that way. And I usually sleep pretty okay. I've always been an incredibly sound sleeper when I sleep. As a child, I used to fall out of the bed a lot. And my parents, who are incredibly light sleepers, would hear the thunk and would come and put me back in bed, and I would have no idea. Like, they would ask me the next morning if I remembered falling out of bed, and I rarely did. But it's the getting to sleep where I struggle. And then so it's not like once I'm asleep, but if something does wake me up, I usually don't just like wake up, right? There's something, a noise, my cat meowing loudly in my face, any of these different things. Lately, and I think this is a symptom of my woo-woo streak.
Okay.
If I am having a bad dream, I am able to pull myself out of it. I am able to recognize from within the dream that I am having a dream, and I am able to say, Allison, wake up.
Yeah. This is interesting because we're kind of implying that we're still inattentive in our sleep, which is definitely true for me. I mean, anything can wake me up. And so that's not good.
That actually is the inference that the article is making as well, that basically these symptoms that we experience in our waking state are also present in our stasis, to use the word that you used earlier.
So I have been reading a book about the hypothesis that human beings with current ADHD have been around since the dawn of humans, and their brains are, work different for a reason. And this really does make so much sense, where a hunter would be out, and much like an animal like a dog or anything else that does not like completely shut off, that can be wake up just like that, we would have the same thing, that you grab sleep when you can. And it would also say that night owls like myself, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that I'm once again trying to adhere to a quote unquote normal schedule and world. And that is true. Every time that I give myself the ability to sleep, I get tons of sleep, no problem. If I don't have to wake up. But because I can't go to bed, I can't shut down at a decent hour, then that's when I suffer.
I've always been a morning person. I've never been a big sleeper inner. So even as a teen, when all my friends would sleep in until 10, 11, noon, I think the latest I've ever been able to sleep consistently, maybe in like college, maybe 8 or 9. I think that is my FOMO. I think that if I sleep, I'm going to miss something.
I feel like I can corroborate that, because if you sleep through the day, which I have done in my times, you literally lose that daylight and you cannot get it back. So you are then forcing yourself to spend dark evening hours to finish the things that you need or want to do. Okay, so let's run with the idea of things that we could apply in game, in real life. What helps you sleep when you're having a hard time? What is there a ritual? Is there...
When I was going through a very stressful time in my life a few years back, I was at a job that I hated. This was before I went out on my own and joined y'all. I was like, my blood pressure is the highest it's ever been. I was just constantly felt like I was on edge. And I started this practice of keeping a journal by my bed and writing my worries down when I would wake up in the middle of the night. I have a good friend that I've known since college, and she always used to do this with me in college. When I would kind of start spinning and get real panicked, she would always say, have you made a list? Always enforce that. Make a list, because it's always scarier in your head.
Yes.
We imagine things, and I create these stories, and everything is terrible and falling down, and I have so much to do, and I'm never ever going to get it done. And so she just started saying, make a list. And then when you see the list, it's like, okay, that's actually, I can do this. I can. And the list helps you prioritize, because you can see things like, okay, well, this is due this day. So I took that practice and turned it into a bedside journal. And then you helped me level that up from there. It started as a place to write down my worries, to dump them out of my head. And then once they're out of my head and no longer swimming there, I could fall asleep and sleep more peacefully, knowing it's all going to be okay. And then you introduced the practice of gratitude journaling, especially nighttime. So, you know, dumping everything out of my head, but then what am I thankful for? What's going right?
Yeah.
And I think that's continued into my, you know, manifestation and stuff like that now, is this constant focus on what I want, what I desire, instead of this focus on what I don't have, what I don't want. So just this practice of like, I'm grateful for X, Y, and Z. I want to fall back asleep. I didn't do any of that last night. Now I'm realizing that I've moved away from that. And so that's why I was up watching TikTok at 2:30 in the morning for an hour.
So that's the other danger, right, with ADHD, is that you can follow a system and know that it works like a freaking charm, and then you just don't do it one day.
Yep.
Period. You just stop doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah.
What about you?
Yes, those things. Every time that I do not bring devices into bed is helpful. Blue light is real, y'all. Blue light is a real thing. I don't care what kind of like yellowy tinge you put on a screen. It's gonna keep you awake. I know that. I also love an app called Calm that has this series called Sleep Stories that they put out a lot, and they are all kinds of things. Famous actors, not famous actors, reading stories, talking about trains. I don't know. It does, and they do it all in a very calm voice, you know. And so I try to force myself to hear the end of one, and I usually can't, which is great.
I use an app called Insight Timer.
Okay.
Which is a meditation, a grounding, you know, a guided meditation app. And there is a creator named Sarah Blondin whose content I just love. And so that's another one of mine. If I wake up in the middle of the night, she has the very, like, I love the music she puts underneath her guided meditations.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And her voice is just incredibly soothing. And it's all these messages of hope and love and prosperity and abundance and all of that stuff. So sometimes I'll do that. I forgot. It's object constancy, man.
Yep. But you know what? That's never going to change, number one. Number two, talking about this helps us remember. Maybe we'll help somebody else listening to this. The other amazing thing about this podcast is like all the stuff that we have learned in the time that we've done this, and then the unbelievable element that there's so much we have no idea.
We know nothing, John. So.
Doctors don't know. I'm certainly not anti-doctor, but I now go and I go to doctors. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't
that much
seem
different from the cable guy. I had Spectrum Cable in a townhouse, okay? And they're all independent contractors, right? The story is going somewhere, I promise. Yeah. And without fail, about every 2 to 3 months, my internet would go out, and I would call, and they would send somebody out, and they would, I don't know what the last guy did.
Yes.
2 months later, and it got to a point where I would be like, the last guy bitched about the last guy who bitched about the last guy, so I can't. And of course, that guy would be like, yeah, I don't know what he did, but I fixed it 2 months later. I feel like doctors are the same thing, man. I feel like I go to a doctor and they're like, whoever told you that is blah, 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 do this. And then you do that. And then you go to a different doctor and they're like, who told you that? The last guy really messed that. And it's like, no.
Stop doing that. Look, I'm not knocking the amount of work, hard work that doctors, nurses, all of the medical profession do. I'm not saying that you're not smart or good at what you do necessarily, but you have to know that that's the case, that we're going to you and you're saying one thing and it's a guess.
Yeah.
It's a guess because I can't properly tell anybody how I'm really feeling unless I actually break my leg. But otherwise, it's like, yeah, I've got a pain in my back. It's just so
unless
random.
you
so random.
Break your leg and then you only need an 8-hour sleep and your leg is fixed. That's how it works. Okay. To tie this all back to D&D, it's not the healing overnight that I can't get behind. It's the fact that after fighting a dragon, our heroes are just gonna like set out their little bedrolls and fall asleep? Come on, man.
That's true. Man. That is so true. Now, is that an ADHD thing, or do you do it too? I guess a lot of people do, but if I play a show, if I even have a rehearsal that ends at 10, I'm definitely not going to bed.
No, you need the wind down.
You need the wind down. The wind down is hardcore.
But we watch it all the time. It actually, y'all know I love Critical Role. You know that I am a Critical Role stan, okay? But the number of times they finish something and are like, great, now we're going to take a long rest, and all just like set up camp and then fall asleep immediately and all sleep for 8 hours. Come on.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's bull shorts. Holy forking shirt balls. I have a harder time with that than the like all lacerations are closed, all wounds are healed in 8 hours, Matt. Just so you know where my brain is.
I like it. Yeah. So how would you fix that mechanic?
I think that there has to be wind down time. I think that and that it kind of goes too with the like the short rest mechanic that I don't buy, right? That you just like spring up and have a short rest in the middle of this cave. No, you don't. No, you don't. And that's something that I do when I DM, I do push my players on, is that it's really not 8 hours, because if you're all trying to get the long rest and you have to keep watch, the mechanic there is you tie in some like fireside chat type stuff. That I can believe, but you don't just finish an adventure, fall asleep for 8 hours, wake up and keep marauding. That's unrealistic.
It's very unrealistic.
But we're going to keep on playing. We're going to keep on long resting.
We're going to keep on long resting. Love it. Okay. Well, I don't know that we fixed anything, but
we told people about our favorite meditation voices and gratitude journals. Problem solved. We fixed everything.
Solved. So yeah, if you think that you have, or you know that you have ADHD and you're having a tough time sleeping, let's start a conversation about it. What can we do? We can share stories. We can sing you a song.
A nice song of rest.
Little rest.
And that's why I have nightmares.
Good night, little Allison. I'll be watching your sleep time underneath this dark bed. You will know that I'm always here.
Okay. I love it. This is fun.
Glad we solved none of the world's problems today. But we had fun, and that's what's important. Boogeyman Matthew.
Yes.
Thank you for being on my podcast.
You're so welcome. I will see you tonight.
Copy, print.
Thank you for listening and being a part of our ADHd20 family. If you're looking for more, we'd love to see you in our public Discord server. Look for the link in our show notes and come join the chatter about all things TTRPG and ADHD, but also TV, music, really pretty much anything on our minds.
We also have a Patreon where you can get access to bonus content and outtakes, be the first to hear new episodes, join us for live streamed recording sessions, and even play Dungeons and Dragons with us and our friends.
The best way you can help us, though, is just to share this podcast with people you think will like it.
Thank you for being a pal to us as people, to ADHd20 the podcast, and to the greater Bivens Brothers Creative Commonwealth of Nerds.